Beneath Hollywood's golden age glamour lies a world of crafted personas and hidden truths. In an era where image was everything, many of the most iconic stars of the time had to reinvent themselves, fabricating stories about their pasts, their heritage, and their origins to fit into a mold Hollywood demanded. From creating false identities to erasing cultural backgrounds, these actors and actresses went to extreme lengths to secure their place in the limelight. In this video, we're diving into the fascinating stories of 9 Golden Age actors who faked their backstories to make it in Tinseltown. Some were trying to escape their pasts, while others were simply following the industry's strict demands. But the question remains, how far would you go to achieve fame in an industry that valued illusion over reality? 1. Merle Oberon. Merle Oberon was a striking beauty in 1930s Hollywood, but her rise to stardom was built on a carefully constructed lie. Born in Bombay, British India, to a mixed Anglo-Indian heritage, Oberon's true background didn't fit the industry's racist standards. To survive, she reinvented herself as a glamorous British aristocrat from Tasmania, claiming a privileged childhood in Hobart in England. In reality, Oberon was raised in poverty in Kolkata by her mother, who was of Tamil and Mai descent. To keep up the illusion, her mother traveled with her, posing as a maid, and Oberon spoke only in Hindi to maintain their deception. Hollywood helped her maintain this myth by using lighting and makeup to make her appear more European. By the 1930s, Oberon became a star, even earning an Oscar nomination for The Dark Angel. However, the truth of her origins remained hidden, and when journalists began questioning her backstory, she avoided public scrutiny, even canceling a visit to Tasmania in 1965. It wasn't until after her death in 1979 that her true heritage was uncovered, revealing her Indian roots. Oberon's case highlights the racial barriers in early Hollywood and the extreme lengths actors went to in order to succeed, an unfortunate testament to the industry's obsession with image over truth. 2. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was one of Hollywood's most iconic stars, but the woman behind the name was far from the glamorous persona Hollywood created. Born in San Antonio, Texas in 1904, Crawford came from humble beginnings, far removed from the lavish life she later portrayed on screen. To fit Hollywood's narrative, she erased her true origins and invented a privileged backstory, claiming she had attended elite schools and came from wealth. In reality, Crawford's childhood was marked by hardship. She worked as a laundress and waitress to survive after her mother's divorce. Hollywood had no room for such struggles in its fairy tales, so she reimagined her past, even allegedly falsifying high school records to gain entry into Stevens College. Once in Hollywood, she completely reinvented herself, changing her name and building an image of sophistication and refinement. Despite the harsh realities of her early life, Crawford thrived in Hollywood, becoming one of its most enduring stars. But the cracks in her carefully crafted persona began to show, especially with her tumultuous marriages and infamous feud with Bette Davis. Her daughter Christina's memoir, Mommy Dearest, further shattered the illusion, depicting Crawford as emotionally abusive and obsessed with her image. Crawford's ability to maintain such a meticulously constructed identity is a testament to the power of Hollywood's image-making machine. While the truth of her past remained hidden, she proved that, in Tinseltown, the most important thing was the story you told, not the one you lived. 3. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, known as the King of Hollywood, wasn't born into the glamorous life he later portrayed on screen. The truth? He was the son of a steel worker from Hopedale, Ohio, and spent his early years working in factories and oil fields. His humble beginnings were far from the sophisticated, dashing image that MGM would later craft for him. To make it in Hollywood, Gable knew he needed to reinvent himself. With the help of his first wife, Josephine Dillon, a theater coach, Gable underwent a complete transformation. He had his teeth fixed, received posture coaching, and took elocution lessons to refine his speech, shedding his working-class accent for the deep, commanding voice that became his signature. By 1931, Gable had made his breakthrough in the Painted Desert and, under MGM's guidance, his persona was fully sculpted. The studio made sure he looked the part, dressing him in tailored suits and emphasizing his rugged masculinity, carefully erasing his working-class roots. Gable was no longer the factory worker from Ohio but a suave leading man. Despite his massive success and iconic status, Gable never fully abandoned his roots. He preferred quiet nights on his ranch over Hollywood's glitzy parties, and even in his later years he would reminisce about his blue-collar upbringing. But the world only saw the King of Hollywood, a man who had carefully concealed his past to fit Hollywood's ideal image. 4. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson's rise to fame in Hollywood was as carefully constructed as his image. Born Roy Harold Scherer Jr. in 1925, Hudson started his career as a shy, awkward young man from Illinois, but his agent, Henry Wilson, had a different vision. He gave him a new name, Rock Hudson, and spun a backstory that painted him as a rugged, all-American man with a Navy background, designed to fit the Hollywood mold of masculinity. While his new identity helped him land leading roles, Hudson's true personal life was a closely guarded secret. At the height of his fame, rumors about his sexuality began to swirl, but Hudson's image as the perfect straight heartthrob was too valuable to Hollywood to let the truth come out. To quash the whispers, Hudson was married off to his agent's secretary Phyllis Gates in 1955, though many suspected the marriage was a cover-up to silent speculation. Hudson played the part of the ideal leading man, but behind closed doors, he struggled with his true identity. In the 1980s, just as Hudson's career had started to fade, the secret he had worked so hard to protect came to light. Hudson was diagnosed with AIDS in 1984, forcing Hollywood and the public to confront the reality of his hidden life. His death in 1985 became a pivotal moment in the fight against HIV/AIDS, making him an unwitting advocate for change. Hudson's story is a reminder of the immense pressure placed on stars to uphold a perfect public image, no matter the cost. His carefully crafted persona became a symbol of Hollywood's hypocrisy, where truth was often sacrificed in favor of the ideal. 5. Cary Grant. Cary Grant, the epitome of Hollywood charm and sophistication, wasn't always the suave leading man audiences adored. Born Archibald Leach in 1904, Grant came from a troubled working-class background in Bristol, England. His early years were marked by hardship, and his father placed his mother in a mental institution when Grant was just a child, something he wouldn't fully understand until he was much older. Determined to escape his past, Leach reinvented himself both physically and professionally. He joined an acrobatic troupe and eventually made his way to Hollywood, where he shed his real identity for a more polished persona. He adopted the name Cary Grant, crafted a transatlantic accent, and transformed his image into that of an effortlessly refined and sophisticated leading man, hiding his working-class roots and the emotional scars of his childhood. Grant's carefully constructed image made him one of Hollywood's most beloved stars by the 1940s, but the reality of his past lingered. Though he maintained a nearly perfect public persona, behind the scenes, Grant struggled with the weight of the character he had created. He admitted in later years that the Cary Grant people adored was more of a role than a true reflection of himself. Despite this, the image stuck, and even as he aged, the world continued to see him as the epitome of Hollywood glamour. Grant's story is one of reinvention, showing how an actor could escape a difficult past to create an entirely new identity, one that became so ingrained in the public's mind that even he found it hard to escape. His transformation was both a survival tactic and a reflection of Hollywood's demand for a carefully crafted, flawless image. 6. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth was one of Hollywood's greatest stars, captivating audiences with her beauty and charisma. However, the woman behind the iconic Gilda image was far removed from the persona Hollywood created for her. Born Margarita Carmen Canino in 1918 in Brooklyn, New York, she came from a mixed Spanish and Irish heritage, but when she arrived in Hollywood, her background became a liability, especially her Spanish identity. To fit the all-American mold Hollywood demanded, Hayworth underwent a significant transformation. She was forced to undergo painful electrolysis to raise her hairline, a procedure that left permanent scars. Her naturally dark hair was dyed a striking red, and her last name was changed to Hayworth. The studio wanted a star who could fit the mold of a glamorous American beauty, not a Latina, and Hayworth complied, though it cost her a part of her true identity. Despite her struggles with the sacrifices demanded of her, Hayworth became a star, with roles in films like Gilda cementing her legacy. However, she privately resented the changes made to her appearance and the persona she was forced to adopt. In a rare interview, she famously said, "Men fell in love with Gilda, but they woke up with me," hinting at the disconnect between the public's perception and her true self. Hayworth's story is a poignant example of the lengths to which Hollywood would go to conform its stars to a specific image. Her transformation from Margarita Canino to Rita Hayworth reflects the industry's obsession with controlling its stars and erasing their true identities to create a more marketable image. 7. Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis, known for his good looks and charming screen presence, wasn't born into the glamorous world Hollywood made him a part of. Born Bernard Schwartz in 1925 in the Bronx, New York, Curtis came from a working-class Jewish family. His early life was far from the polished persona he would later adopt. The name Tony Curtis was carefully crafted by his agent, Henry Wilson, who also rebranded Rock Hudson. Curtis's transformation didn't stop at a new name. He took speech lessons to soften his thick Bronx accent, replacing his natural street-smart cadence with the smooth drawl of a leading man. Hollywood pushed him to downplay his ethnic background, encouraging him to adopt a more marketable, all-American image. Curtis never explicitly claimed aristocratic roots, but he carefully avoided talking about his immigrant origins, letting the public imagine a more refined past. By the early 1950s, Curtis was a rising star, appearing in films like Sweet Smell of Success, 1957, but behind the scenes he struggled with the pressure to conform. The industry's obsession with image meant Curtis had to hide parts of his true self to survive. The pressure to fit into Hollywood's mold led him to lead a life that felt disconnected from his roots. Years later, Curtis reflected on the pressure to conform, stating in interviews, "His story is a testament to the struggles actors faced in the golden age of Hollywood, where self-reinvention was essential for survival, and sometimes for success." 8. Lupe Velez. Lupe Velez, known for her fiery on-screen presence, was a star who both embraced and resented the persona Hollywood imposed upon her. Born in 1909 in San Luis Potosi, Mexico, Velez came from a modest background, far from the glamorous image Hollywood was eager to create. In the industry's eyes, however, she wasn't a Mexican woman with depth. She was the Mexican Spitfire, a hot-tempered, passionate Latina character that fit their stereotypical image of exoticism. To fit Hollywood's vision, Velez leaned into the wild persona, playing up the dramatic, fiery temperament in interviews and on screen. Her thick accent and background, far from being an obstacle, were amplified as part of her brand. But beneath the over-the-top persona was a woman who struggled with the limitations it placed on her career. Despite her range as an actress, she was typecast and confined to roles that played into the Spitfire stereotype. Velez resented being trapped in this box and fought against Hollywood's expectations. She openly criticized the industry for its treatment of Latinos, even hosting a benefit for Mexican servicemen in 1942, where she addressed the crowd in Spanish, an act of defiance in an industry that demanded assimilation. Yet the Hollywood machine never let her escape the persona it created for her. Her tragic end in 1944, coupled with myths about her death perpetuated by gossip columns, only solidified the Spitfire image. Today, scholars are reassessing Velez's legacy, recognizing that she was more than just a stereotype. She was a woman who fought to define herself in an industry that tried to rewrite her story. 9. Paul Muni. Paul Muni wasn't just an actor, he was a chameleon, disappearing into every role he played. Born in 1895 in what is now Ukraine, Muni began his career in Yiddish theater, but Hollywood had no interest in his ethnic background. To make it in the golden age of Hollywood, Muni reinvented himself entirely, adopting the name Paul Muni and presenting himself as a classically trained actor from Chicago, distancing himself from his roots. This transformation went beyond just a new name. Muni immersed himself in dialects, altering his physical appearance and using elaborate makeup to fully disappear into characters. His dedication to his craft was so intense that studio executives found it frustrating. Unlike many actors who could rely on their charm and good looks, Muni's work was a meticulous process of reinvention for each role. Muni's commitment paid off in 1936 when he won an Oscar for his portrayal of Louis Pasteur in The Story of Louis Pasteur. He was hailed for his ability to disappear into the role, yet it came at a cost. Hollywood's obsession with transformation meant that Muni was rarely recognized for who he truly was. His deep involvement in his craft led to his being labeled as difficult to work with, as he often altered his persona so completely that he was unrecognizable between roles. Muni's story is a testament to the sacrifices actors made to fit Hollywood's mold of perfection. While he became a celebrated actor, his journey also illustrates the lengths to which many went in order to survive and succeed in an industry that demanded reinvention at every turn. Finally, Hollywood's golden age was built on illusion, with stars often forced to fabricate their pasts to fit the industry's ideal. From Merle Oberon's false aristocracy to Rock Hudson's hidden truth, many actors rewrote their identities to survive in a system that valued image over authenticity. Their transformations came at a high personal cost, often leaving them torn between their public personas and private selves. These stories remind us that fame in Hollywood was never just about talent, it was about conforming to an image. While their legacies live on, the price they paid for stardom was often devastating. Their struggles continue to reflect the tension between identity and illusion in the entertainment industry today.